In the last few lectures, we've seen how we can use Venn diagrams to predict that and to show why, explain why, certain immediate categorical inferences and certain syllogisms are valid or invalid. Now, I'd like to make a point today about categorical logic, about categories in general. It might seem that the application of the method of Venn diagrams is really quite limited because a lot of our statements aren't really about categories at all. They're about individuals, not categories. But I want to say that this is an example of how ordinary language can mislead us. If we think about precisely what it is that we're saying in a lot of the ordinary statements that appear to be about individuals, we'll see that, in fact, those ordinary statements really are about categories, not just about individuals. Let me give you an example to illustrate this point. Consider the statement, Mary owns a Ferrari. Now, that statement appears to be just about individuals. It doesn't appear to involve any categories, right? There's Mary, who, let's suppose, is a particular person that I'm talking about, like a coworker of mine. Not that any of my coworkers would own a Ferrari, but suppose that Mary is a particular person, and we're talking about Mary's Ferrari, which is a particular car, and it seems that that statement is just claiming that the person, the particular person I'm talking about, owns that particular car. Right? There don't seem to be any categories involved at all. But wait a second. Compare the statement Mary owns a Ferrari to the statement some of Mary's possessions are Ferrari cars. Now that second statement, notice, is of the I form. It's of the form some F's are G's. Right? You're saying some things that fall into one category, the category of Mary's possessions, also fall into a second category, the category of Ferrari cars. Now, these two statements seem to amount to the same thing. When I say Mary owns a Ferrari, what I'm saying is true if and only if some of Mary's possessions are Ferrari cars. The information carried by one of those statements seems to be the same as the information carried by the other. So here's a case where, to look at the language we were using when we said Mary owns a Ferrari, you would have thought, well, we're not talking about any categories there. So the method of Venn diagrams and all of this stuff about categorical logic is completely irrelevant to any argument we might make that uses the statement Mary owns a Ferrari, either as a premise or as a conclusion. But in fact, that's not true. In fact, the statement that Mary owns a Ferrari is equivalent to the statement some of Mary's possessions are Ferrari cars, which is a statement of the I form, some F's or G's. And so, the categorical logic that we've been developing this week in the method of Venn diagrams actually can be used to study the validity of arguments where the statement Mary owns a Ferrari is included as one of the premises or as the conclusion. Because the statement Mary owns a Ferrari is just equivalent to a statement of the I form. Some of Mary's possessions are Ferrari cars. I want to say this phenomenon is very general. Not every statement is of the A, E, I, or O forms, but lots and lots of ordinary statements that we make are of one of those forms. Many more than ordinary language would suggest. So, with that in mind, I want now to show how we can apply the categorical logic, how we can apply the lessons we learned concerning the validity of syllogisms and how we can use Venn diagrams to predict and explain the validity of syllogisms, how we can now apply those lessons to arguments that are syllogisms, but you wouldn't think that they are just to look at the language in which they're expressed. Okay, see you next time.